Collected Essays of Valerie Lynn Stevens. The Spear and the Warhead. With primal intuition, we should declare ourselves definitively sane in the face of all the vagaries and licentious delirium which this mortal human flesh may visit upon us. May we hereby discharge our wanton shadow from the ghost asylum of reticence and self-loathing, which puritanical tyranny and the pretenses and posturings of austere nobility so unnaturally cultivate. For we are all achingly aware of the true apostasy we must commit daily before the ecumenical altars of so-called social order and industry. Yet not unlike the true nature we must often shun, nothing is ever just either or, but is always all of the above and at the same time. It is the infinite quantum void, ever teeming with mere probability or possibility until we choose and thereby externalize the internal, all remaining in mere ontological suspension until then. Furthermore, one individual's civility and order is another's utter savagery and chaos. Moreover, the depraved anarchy and portentous damnation often so smugly and sententiously predicted by those of the former kind is in actuality usually experienced by the latter kind as their only reason and redemption. It is often touted that resistance to that which is most natural is rewarding in its preventive or safeguarding effects, but we must examine preventive of what exactly. My thoughts on that have always been that all was created to possess a particular intrinsic perfection of design and nature, and perhaps essence should always be honored as preceding existence, even and perhaps especially in the face of those dictates of revision so militantly urged and enforced by the political architects and social engineers of any given milieu. Yet I suppose many will continue to pay heed only to the stifling dogmas of doctrine and denomination. Yet what they fail to realize is how this blind adherence merely seeks to exact from humanity a diffusion of ipseity, and therefore any ultimate ethical or moral soundness or efficacy amongst society. For this furthermore merely reduces the human essence to a kind of gross and unorthodox uniformity, as to become one in a grander sense of communal altruism. Each and every individual must cultivate a sense of such wholeness from within themselves. We are only as divinely human or evolved as we have earned this distinction of character. And indeed, cogito ergo sum asserts its dominion once again, for we are also only that which we believe that we are, and the same applies to how we interact with the so-called external world. In continuum, percipience and the monitoring thereof is the most powerful and adept tool which we, the human species, have always had at our employment. And how we think is indeed a life force in and of itself, as it determines so much. Hence, perhaps the most important question for each individual to ask themselves is not, how should I live, but how should I think? The verdict is in. What we think and believe is all that there is. Mind is what matters, and perhaps, as theorized by quantum physicists, is what all matter is composed of itself. Thus, perhaps we should seek a cultivation of our minds before we will ever be able to truly cultivate the fruits of the spirit, a religio mentis, if you will, as in the long-standing Judaist tradition. The current Western Cartesian-based paradigm often dictates a kind of matter over mind, at the costly expense of that which ultimately and truly matters. Moreover, I have always held in high regard the Judaist tradition of intellectuality and the refinement thereof as a means towards achieving spiritual enlightenment. To clarify, I would like to use a personally preferred term, amor intellectualis Dei, which translates roughly as a love for the mind of God. This means that to truly love God means seeking to cultivate as much of this self-same mind within oneself. And indeed, perhaps if we each, as the human individual entities that we are, continue to mold and shape our inward beings into that which we envisage the so-called outer world to become, then some fine day we may have reached full fruition despite all human risk to get there. For if indeed the numinous substance of ideation is the eventual stuff of actuality, then we all must take diligent heed of which mind fruits we each seek to cultivate, for not all kinds of fruit both sustain and nourish.